Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to GeekVerse review. Lots of times when I say GeekVerse review, I can say a special GeekVerse review or something like that, because usually it's a good time. Usually it means I'm reviewing something that's really good or I'm looking forward to. But sometimes you gotta enjoy a few rainy days to enjoy those sunny days. Actually, in real life, it'd be flipped because I prefer the rain, but this is not the rain I would prefer. Excuse me. This is a review for Karen. Uh, okay, so before we get into all that, this is GeekVerse Podcast. Head down to the description down below. I keep saying that. Head down below. This is a podcast that covers a lot of things in the geekdom, right? Marvel, DC, Star Wars, the whole shebang. These past 6 months have been great, so thank you to everyone that support us. But everywhere that you can watch or listen is down below. So podcast feeds, YouTube feeds. If you like what we do, please wherever you listen, subscribe, like, leave nice reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts. A 5-star written review, those actually really help. Constructive criticism, things like that are good, not just you guys suck. And okay, well, tell us why we suck. That'd be nice. But luckily, majority of people are pretty positive, so that's a good thing. So, what else? I'm trying to think what we have. We have so much stuff coming up in September, even though stuff's getting delayed. But a big thank you to everyone that checked out the Shang-Chi review. That did very well for us. A big thank you to everyone that checked out on the podcast network. That was their biggest day. So oh, that's really cool. Sorry, the neck just cracked in that moment. That's really cool. But yeah, and if you really want to support us, like what we do, head over to Patreon. You get ad-free exclusive early episodes right now. You can get Dexter Retro's 1 and 2 season. I'm recording season 3 soon. Obviously, you've listened to the Shang-Chi review. I'll be taking a break. If you go to the end credits, I tell you why. Yeah, we got lots of good stuff. Newscasts, what if every week. I know there's going to be some sort of malignant review. I don't know if I'll be on that, but I'm sure Taylor will be. Hopefully, Kirklin will be on as well. Lots of good stuff. October is going to be packed. We got the charity stream cup November 6th, which we're going to start promoting soon. So, tons of good things. So, if you like what we do, head over to Facebook or Twitter, and that is where you can follow everything as far as what we do, when we're doing it, how we're doing it, maybe who's on, stuff like that, times. That's the best way to go. So, and yeah, look out. Not that there's any big changes, but I think in fall in 2022, there'll be some changes here and there that are all for the better, hopefully help you and help grow the channel as well. And like we said, if you like what we do, Patreon is the best way to do that because the more support we get, the more content we create. It's that simple. It's that easy. So, this is Karen. I had seen this review or this trailer. God, I don't know how many months ago it was, but it came out. It was trending. And it's funny when it was trending, I didn't even watch it at first because it's just like, I just know what we're getting into. I know exactly what we're getting into. And then it was trending and talked about so much. It's like, okay, I have to talk about it, or at least I have to watch it. And then I was like, okay, I have to see this because sometimes things just look so bad you have to believe it for yourself, right? It's that whole cliche of a car accident, right? Now, most of the times I will say, I'm gonna give you non-spoilers a break, and then we go in the spoiler section and then stay, go away. If you haven't seen it, then come back. We're gonna do that, except I recommend no one go away. I'm not gonna do a big dive into the film just because it is watch the trailer, and what that trailer is, you know what you're getting into. Now, it does have a room-like quality, I will say that. So I watched this alone, and I still had a good time because of how bad it is. And this is I try not to do this, but acting overall in this film, not that great. But it's a smaller budget film. That happens sometimes. So you kind of go, what could the writing be like? What could the story be like? What could the characters be like? Those aren't there either. The best way I could describe this is they sat down and they looked at every single Twitter or Facebook post that has to deal with racism, and they looked at the comments and they found the people that are the racist fucks. And they took that and then they put this in the movie, but no base level. They have the themes of racism and Black Lives Matters and the whole Karen meme and stuff like that, and racial injustice, all these things. But it's like surface level stuff. They never get past anything that you haven't had a conversation before. It doesn't have anything to do to make you think more. It just takes world life events or world life negative sayings, as far as like, here's an example of one where Karen, our main, I guess our main protagonist, but she's kind of a main character. She takes that approach of they're talking about and minor spoilers, but it's not that big a deal. They're talking about fourth time's the charm, police brutality, and they're talking about Black Lives Matter, and then she does the, well, don't all lives matter? And then they go a little bit as far as like, well, lives have to matter first, and this and that, and blah blah blah. And they kind of give a reason. And she's like, I think all life should matter. And then they go, well, you're out of line, Karen. And there's no conversation. I think there's two ways you have to take this type of movie. And I get what they might be trying to go for if they're trying to do like a Get Out where it's a horror movie, but it is a anecdote or a kind of a mirror, a reflection into our current day and age, right? This is definitely not that. It is to an extent. It is because like here's the thing. Like I was saying, the kernel of the Karen idea could work in two ways. Either one, you go full on comedy because it says I think it's listed as a dark comedy thriller. Now, I don't believe them for a second that they intended that. I think it happened and then they played off the way. There's a few of them trying to be comedic scenes, but not enough where I thought, oh yeah, this is something really well thought out and crafted. It feels like The Room, where if you've heard rumors of that, where Tom Wiseau made it, it came out and then he kind of stepped back and retroactively like, oh, I made it as a comedy. It's supposed to be funny, but that is not the case, with The Room, and that's not the case here. But they claim that, so okay, sure, but either I think they should have went fully, and it's tough, right? The line of like, do you go like a Wayne's Brothers scary movie sort of fully as far as that type of wild out there humor? You could, but I feel like there's a way to smartly do it, or you have to go the way where, in a sense, where there's another scene. Again, I guess I'm giving a little spoilers, but not too many. I'll save the biggest stuff for spoilers. The big stuff. There's a scene where there's these two gentlemen. They're both black and they're having lunch and they're being loud, but they're not being loud. At least the movie portrays it as obnoxious. They're just having a good time. They're talking, catching up, everything like that. And she goes over there and she makes a big deal like, hey, it's a restaurant. You got to be quiet. This is Karen, pronoun pal. And so she's like, oh, if it's going to happen again, I'm going to have to talk to managers. They literally do the Karen thing, right? Now, they kind of make it that she's really going out of her way because these guys are just like a little excited, not enough to be thrown out, but because they are black and she is white, she goes out of her way to make that happen. Now, and there's other situations where they do things where when you look at the story or you look at the character, you go, who would do this? Who would actually do this in their right mind? Who would act this way as a grown adult? That's the thing where, like this is where they could have, there's a timeline where this is like a great movie or a good movie. There are these people, whether it is just, there's some people on the trolling on the internet that I think like play it up, but I think there are some people out there that are deliberately, or they're consciousness or the personality is this racist, this bad, this offensive. They don't care. They don't think what they're doing. We've seen, especially the past year and a half with COVID, how many entitled fucking assholes there are as far as just ruining things for the rest of us while we're trying to move forward, right? So that's where it's like the idea that some of this outrageous stuff that the Karen character does or says, like there's that line from the trailer where she just goes, oh, she walks up to the main characters, I guess I should get their names. The main character's wife, or one of the main characters, she's like a blogger. They just move in. That's the pitch, that they just move into this neighborhood that's primarily white, very rich, and Karen has an issue with that. It's in the trailer, but there's lots of lines like this where she's cooking and then Karen walks in like, look at you slaving away in the kitchen. Now, again, there are fucking imbeciles and pathetic people like that in this world. But eventually they start to play it up so much where you go, okay, this is not even believable for what you're trying to go to. So that's the thing where there are times where you go, oh, this couldn't happen. But it does, unfortunately. People say these things, people do these things. We've seen it happen before, but it goes way too far, but then not far enough to be that really like dark black comedy, right? So, and it is a mess. Like I said, it's not good. It's just not good. It has the Room type of quality, writing, everything like that. And it's even as like a trying to be just like a decent horror thriller, they take a lot of missteps. It is bad the whole way around to its very core. Unfortunately, there's not a good thing other than I got a few laughs. Watch this by myself is like so bad, so good. I think you could watch it with some friends and have a really good time just watching how bad it is. But I think the other problem with me, and I think we talked about this on a newscast of why this movie can't work and be that enjoyable in the same sense as The Room, is The Room Okay, yes, there's some dark stuff in there. It deals with suicide and everything. But by the time we get to that with Tommy Wiseau, it feels so outrageous and so silly. You don't really buy into it. Where this right away is hitting on race issues and kind of dividing people, things like that. And that's just not as fun. It's it's not a that's not like good time, and that's where it's hard to have a good time with this movie, and that's where I think you'd have to be clever. I think that's where someone like Quentin Tarantino, Django, is clever with some of the humor. So it, would I only way I'd tell you to watch this movie is if you have friends and you're trying to have a good time to watch a very bad movie, because that's what this is. It's not worth the time. I think I have it. I'd have to check my letterbox. I think I have like 42 films I've seen this year from 2021, and this is easily number one. And that's in a year where The Woman in the Window came out, which I thought was dreadful as well. But this is like an offensive dreadful, and it just feels like that. It feels like them trying to justify, be like, well, we're tackling race and talking about why it's a bad issue, and that's why we should be okay to say these things or do these things. But it doesn't come off that way, and it's not smart enough to come off that way, other than you just feel gross watching it, and not gross again in a good way, where it's like, wow, they really designed, like speaking of Tarantino, he was talking on a podcast once about one of the best things about Joker is the subversion of expectations, where you want Joker to kill Robert De Niro, right? But then after it happens or during, you feel kind of bad. You're like, oh man, he's still an innocent person. That's what this movie feels like without the kind of the getting you invested, and not that you should be invested in Karen, but just as in anybody, because even the main characters that you should be invested in, they make them classic like horror dumb archetypes that it doesn't make any sense. There's no there's no like raising tides. There's no levels in this movie. There's no action point, anything like that. So if you look at some for me as songs, I like songs that build for the most part. You can go, and I can like a beat. But if a beat goes throughout the whole song and doesn't change that much, I like it a little bit less, unless it's a really good beat. But most of the time, I need that high rising. And I think that's kind of thing where it's like, if you look at Billie Eilish, this is a really strange way to get there, but hear me out. Billie Eilish's Bond theme, I really like. It eventually starts to crescendo, but it crescendos very smallly, and it doesn't really change gears that much, even though I really like the song. This movie right out of the gate hits you with Karen's racist, Karen's a bad person, blah 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 blah, and they try to do the thing where, again, you could go, okay, she's bad right away. You establish that she is the bad villain antagonist, and she's gonna make it hell for our or protagonists. Or you go the route of slowly they start to realize some things are happening, and something's not right with Karen the neighbor. Could it be her? She seems like a nice person. Right away when you meet her, she is, this is my last example, now getting spoilers. She is nice, but she literally uses, I'm pretty sure, a few things, but she says like the lines like "you people" to our main protagonist guy, and it's clearly insinuating race. And there's times where they're just talking full out about race, and she'll be talking about why black people have been an issue in the community, and it doesn't make any sense as far as this happens. Again, we're getting so close to this one. You know what? I'm gonna take a break. So if you really want to watch this movie, you can. But my point around that is, before I go into spoilers, it's just that it doesn't rise. It hits you in the face over and over about, hey, this Karen's a bad person, bad person, bad person. And yes, she is, but it doesn't make it interesting when our characters are like, I wonder if Karen has done this. Do you think Karen would do this, when she literally is talking in her face about like how, black people may be only good for one thing, or she literally says like, you shouldn't be living in this community. But then later on in a scene or two, it'll be like, hey, Karen. So they all, like I said, they don't go for the dark, really comedy route, or they don't go for the serious social aspect, where you could find a way. I think you could find a way to make the Karen type of idea work, but they kind of go for a master in the middle, which serves, or they kind of go for the middle, which serves a master of none. And again, it's not a well-made film. So it's not like, oh yeah, there's some good aspects, they just got a little lost. No, it's an awful film. It's awful all the way around. It looks cheap. It's just not. And again, I don't want to try not, because it is a lower tier budget, and that happens. Lots of filmmakers do that. We'll do that if we get these TV movies making. But it's just, what, again, when it's that, you got to hope that the quality inside of it is there. So not a dark comedy, not a great thriller, and not playing it subtle, and then not committing to the harshness of the movie in a way, it's strange. Again, just not movie. As to about recommendations, I recommend this for nobody other than if you're watching with friends. It is my worst movie of the year. If the geeks watch, I definitely would put it on the Golden Geeks worst movie. It's like I said, it was something I had to watch. It felt like a car accident. So I'm gonna get into spoilers. Nothing, not a huge review here as far as spoilers because it is a pretty very basic movie that just hits you over the head again and again with a gimmick. It's we have a character named Karen, just like in real life, and she's racist, and here's some events, and it doesn't bring anything new to the tale. Other than like I said, you could read a Twitter thread and you get the same thing out of this movie, pretty much with a few take out a few like quotation marks action parts, but they're very few and far in between and not that special. So we're gonna get into spoilers. So if you have not seen this film and for some reason you don't want to, or you don't want to go avoid it and you want to or see it, then sure, come back and listen to this. But I recommend you could stop the review and not listen to this, or just listen to it and you're good to go. So, and I will break down the movie for you and you'll be fine. You will not need to see crap. So, we will be right back after this ad break. And we're back. So, Karen, so this is what I was talking about a little bit. Again, I was talking about a little in spoilers. So that's why I kind of cut just in case, like I said, if so, I want everyone to reserve the right because I've had that before where people go, and obviously I don't think it's gonna be this movie, but hey, I can't see the movie for a few days, can't see it for a few weeks, but I want to hear your guys' opinion, which means worthless that people are listening. So, in any case, if someone was wanting to listen or watch Karen, but they just wanted to hear my non spoilers, they got that. So, the movie, as I was saying before, right away it leads with, and this is where I knew, okay, we're in trouble. It leads with her coming to say hi and introduce herself to the neighbors and everything like that. And maybe I will bring up the IMDb so I can have their character's name, but she introduces them and she seems just like normal, just making small talk and everything like that. But then, and this is where it's kind of fine, where they start to go, okay, um, you see your trash bin, it's out a few days early. Could you please put it back? Now, she does this a few times throughout the movie, and she does a few smaller stuff like that in the movie as well, where it's just like little naggy things, right? Where it'd be like your boss, an employee that you're like, I just don't like working with this person, but it's like, okay, I'll do it anyways. So Karen, also her main character, and then Malik and Amani, I think that's how you say her name. Those were the two kind of neighbors that moved in. And right away, they talk about like that's again, there's no social subtlety. They talk with the neighbor. She's talking about them being black and everything like that. And I feel like the way you could do this to make it somewhat, and it is generic. We've been there before, but here's the thing: you go with the route of she seems nice, bad stuff's happening, and all the signs point to her, and it is her. But you can kind of build her up to be a protagonist of saying things because she'll be like, "Oh, I didn't mean to say the all lives matter thing. I was completely drunk." But it won't be believable. It doesn't feel like that's the actual case. It feels like she's just saying that. I feel like there's a movie where I think she's drinking at this party. They invite her to well, she invites herself to a party after they've had a few faults, and that's where they have this conversation where they're talking about police brutality. Someone mentioned Black Lives Matter. She mentions all lives matter, right? Now, what they try to do is how she can talk to the neighbors again. She goes to Matt and goes, "Oh, I was drunk so much, and I was just feeling under the weather, and but I would never said those things. I don't mean those things." In the scenes where she says those things, it doesn't seem like she's sloshed or has a bunch of drinks in her. And I know that's a point for us to know, but even if you were to do it smartly, you could make it seem like she is a little, tipsy. So what she's saying is still bad, but maybe these characters would give her the benefit of the doubt of maybe she misspoke or maybe she said something that she overheard, not just she actually just deliberately saying bad and racist things, but she does throughout the whole movie. And that's the problem where even first scene, she'll say this stuff to Malik, she'll say this stuff to Imani, and then later on they'll be talking to her like it never happened. So either you got to go that route of right away, this reminds me a lot of what was that movie, Lakeview Terrace, I think, with Sam Jackson and Patrick Wilson. It's kind of like that, where I think that's the route you go is you take him and her, Karen, slowly build her up to being okay, is something wrong or are we just misjudging it, and that doesn't do that. So that's the problem where okay, if you're going to go with the right away we're going evil protagonist Karen, as I said earlier, it doesn't work because why would these characters the second, and I don't know because I'm not a black man, I just have to go off some of my black man friends, black women friends, and I just kind of go with common sense, especially with the story. If someone were to talk the way they talk to them, I think the first time they meet them, I feel like you would cut off communication. And I don't think you'd do like, oh, well, she talked herself to get to this party so she could try and ruin it. No, it just like, and this is the thing, she'll say these things and then they'll be a little surprised when she says something later, or when they invite her to a situation like the party and it goes awry. And it's just like every conversation, it's not even like when the big problems start happening. It's not like, okay, 50-50, she's been really bad, but really good. So who knows what her personality is like. Right out of the gate, she is talking down these people, making insensitive racial comments. So there's no tension there for anybody. There's no tension for her because she's just throwing on front street like, I'm a bad racist. Okay, well, all racists are bad. But I mean, like, I'm just an open, here you go. But if you call me on it, she'll say she's misspeaking, or she'll backpedal it and kind of word it differently. So Jesus movie. So you could do that, but they don't. They don't do any of these things. It's just a mix of, like I said, she's just throws this out right away. So you don't get the idea of the secret of like, could it be her? And then with her being the antagonist, it makes our characters feel dumb because you go, hey, why would you trust this woman? Why at any point would you want to have a conversation with her, not just walk away? Everything she says is offensive, everything she does is offensive. And there's just like even stuff like she tries to walk over and she tries to be funny, be like, oh yeah, you're smoking weed, don't want anyone to know. And then she like brings it up to like her like law, whatever council board. It's like a, I don't know what the heck it would call. If you all have a bunch of houses and you meet together, some sort of like meeting council or something like that. But either way, she brings up them and she will say again, these people, black people, they're criminals. She says this to a bunch of the white people, and they do this thing where the white people are kind of, oh yeah, we can't make a stir because diversity. We want a diverse neighborhood. Now, again, there's something to play there because we've talked about so much with casting where there's some cast that feels genuine of, hey, they want to just cast best actor. And then there's sometimes there's like, oh no, they're just maybe doing this as like a political stunt, right? So they kind of start playing with that. Again, they have all the themes that could be there, but it's just that. It's just like if I made a movie, right, and the theme is revenge, I would look at the camera and be like, I'm getting revenge. And then I'd walk away and the movie progress. And you go, okay. I started to figure out the movie about revenge, but you didn't have to tell me straight up. And then also, what more about revenge? Like, who are you revenging? How are you doing this? When are you doing this? I'm gonna revenge and get revenge and feel better. And then I walk away again. It's like, okay, I guess that's what the movie is, and that's what this is. It's just taking lines, just random shit, just like they do the all lives matter thing, they do go back to your country sort of thing. They do the these people a lot. They do to the like, oh, like they were, checking out my house, scrubbing it. They do a lot of again cliche stuff as far as not cliche because it happens in the world, but I mean like the way they do it feels cliche. It's like they set up she's a brother in law enforcement. And he's also super racist and he's had all these problems and incidents and he's a rookie who they keep fighting and whatnot. And the finale of this movie is weird. We'll get there, but let me see if let me take a drink, see if there's any notes here. Just something random. And again, the Karen actress is like not the greatest to find. The main characters, they're not great. I don't know how much acting you've done, Malik Amani. Not great. There's this one really, and this is where it feels like the room. There's this one really awkward scene where Malik walks in and he's like, "Did you make food?" Because she's a blogger. I go, "Oh no, I didn't. We could order some." And he goes, "No, this apple's fine." He takes the apple, he starts eating it. It's a very nice house. I'm assuming they could order some food and survive. And two, just the fact that, I've had weight issues before, but just the fact where this guy's like, oh no, I'll eat this apple and I'll be good. You have a lot of, and I did not write them all down. You have a lot of weird, very similar to the room exchanges like that, where you just, these people are not talking in an English normal language that feels put together, that feels like you and I would be talking to. So, the characters, as far as the main characters, they're trying to maybe have a baby. They kind of get in some sort of struggle about that. But yeah, I really like the Apple line. You had a lot of that. And so there's, so again, it's happened multiple times where Karen has seemed unworthy or untrustworthy. So they have a moment where Malik's happening with her car. She purposely dumps oil on him. I didn't understand. It was to get him in the house, I guess, but I didn't really understand if it was just to make him fearful or whatnot. They almost try to insinuate at times like Karen's gonna maybe make some sexual moves on him because at one point she's like, she has a son. She's watching the two couple across the street start to get on because their blinds are open, and she shushes them away like that's disgusting. Get out of here. But then she starts to watch, and like even then at one point, how they get the oil or it's like washer fluid onto Malik or Malik, he's like pouring it. She's like, "Oh, I need the help," and he's pouring it, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for the help," and touches his shoulder, and she starts to like caress his arm and then like touch his hand. It's like, okay, that's what a woman or a man might do to get your attention, sexual attention, but like when he does it, he's looking like Jim in American Psycho because she'll touch his hand and he's oh, and he like trembles and he like drops the oil everywhere and that gets on him and she's asking him to take off his shirt. But it is just weird, like lame kind of kiddie writing. It just those things happen a few times. But anyway, so one of the first again, this is what doesn't make any sense. He goes in there and she's got an oil on him. And again, I'm just kind of picking some instances. That's all this movie is. It is the main characters go to and from home. They bump into Karen. Something racist happens. And they go, that Karen could be trouble, but we'll trust her in a little bit. He goes in there. He goes in the washroom. He sees a bunch of like posters of former racists and people history and whatnot. He goes to use he goes to use the soap dispensary that they have or she has. It just has a Confederate flag on it, and it's just that tells you everything you need to know about this movie and how non-subtle it is because it's just find some other way to do that. Even maybe he peeks in a room and there's like a little picture of it, but just it's on the soap. Okay, and then he runs out. But again, after this, they invite her to a party. Now they make some sort of excuse, like I think Amani was like, "Oh, she just like cornered me, and she invited herself, and she was apologetic and being nice." But just like at that point, all the Confederate flag soap dispensary person doesn't get an invite. That's not that's not how it goes. But it happens. Our main characters are just dumb and they're just trying to put themselves in trouble every single time. As I was saying, Karen has a cop brother who's racist and doing some shady stuff. He has already a bunch of reports on him. He's kept our main character, Malik, like under his eye the whole time. But really, I guess I shouldn't say the whole time. The whole time the sister alerts him about Malik. And again, just a whole made up scenario. They do the unfortunate thing that does happen in real life as far as they pull him over and he gets some charged for assault and everything like that. And throughout the movie, there's another time where these kids live in the neighborhood and they're black kids, all three of them, and she starts to say they're trespassing. They're, I can't remember the term she used, but they're just like watching over the house to try to, find a way to make a play on it or something like that. And she just says like, "Oh, they're bad. They're doing all this bad stuff." She calls her brother. Again, the racist cop just arrests them all. This finds out that one of the kids is like the DA's like kid or something like that. So that starts to get the more law enforcement involved. She gets kicked off the housing board and whatnot. So that's kind of fun, but it's not that satisfying because everyone's not great actors and it's not built at all. But she is doing these things where she's setting people up to the cops. She does at the Malik where the brother cop pulls him over, drops a ounce of weed, which I'm not sure when this movie was made because I guess it's different in America. I don't know off the top of my head where and like when, like where pot and marijuana is legal in America. I don't follow that. It's just kind of legal all here in Canada. So good for you pot smokers, not me. But they plant that on him and they start to do like the playback of police brutality because he hits the cop and then the cop and him are fighting and it's this big deal. But then the rookie cop, I like that. The rookie, they made one token good white guy. He steps in front of the guns like, "You're not shooting, you're offline, you're off base," and stuff like that. So it's nice that he's there and he kind of helps saves the day later on. Oh man, I even forgot about too. Like there's just this line of I'll get there, I guess. Their whole idea is just to frame and kill this two couple. Karen breaks in their house with a gun. There's like a big shootout with Amani. There's one Amani gets shot in the shoulder, and then at one point, uh Karen is distracted by something, but it ends with Amani shooting her, and there's some just line of just like, "Welcome to the neighborhood, bitch," or something like that, or "I don't miss, bitch," or something. And it's just the editing in this movie is probably maybe the biggest sin, other than the five other things that are the biggest sins. But it it's just like the way people pick up a gun, like what you're supposed to try to do if you're editing something, right? This guy Malik, he hears something downstairs, nothing comes of it, and they later on talk about and they figure out that Karen just has security cameras pointed to their house. They say, or Karen says, "Oh, it's to be protected," but the way they play it off is clearly, and they've figured out that hey, something could be up here. I just love that we are still at the stage where something could be up. Um, but he hears noise and they go downstairs and or he gets his gun, they're gonna go downstairs. And the way it's edited as far as the way he opens a drawer, he grabs the gun and it's like he grabs the gun and like shows off the gun like side and then he starts to walk. It doesn't feel like it's one like cohesive scene of someone waking up, getting out of bed, grabbing a gun, going downstairs. It feels like it's little chunks filmed elsewhere, which lots of film is that. But this is so off the spectrum as far as little parts filmed here and there and then just shoved together and like, oh, look at this. And editing is definitely hard. That's why you need a good editor, but they don't have that here. So that's a tough thing. So yeah, I wrote down the dinner scene to talk about, so that's there. But anyways, the big finale, like I was talking about, she gets shot. I mean, I wish I should have wrote down the line, but the whole idea is the cop and her are just gonna say that she pulled the gun first and shot her. I don't know how that would work as Karen is in her house. I don't know why that would make any sense, but they're at this point, they're just losing everything as far as money and support and stuff like that. So they're just trying to get this couple out of their lives. And the cop, he gets headshotted, he's done, and then Karen gets killed and everything like that, and our main couple goes to have a baby and everything, and that's great, but it's the ending is very cheesy. It's very cheesy, very I can't like F-rate horror movie, the lowest you could get as far as some of the stuff goes. It's not good. I'm trying to think about what else as far as points I have. Um, hmm. I think I hit most of the points on my list already. But yeah, it's just if you want to see one outrageous thing after another, you you could see it. Like I said, the party scene's probably the most outrageous. They have scenes where these her kids specifically tell the neighbors like she doesn't like black people, but again, they'll still talk to her and make room for her and everything like that. And she'll apologize and oh, okay, yeah, yeah, whatever, and play it off. It's just it's not good stuff. It really isn't. I don't know how much more I have to say on this other than don't watch this movie. I'm just trying to think of any other big thing. I covered the soap. I covered the dinner scene where they go all lives matter and everything like that. The only fun tie that tried to happen is the guy she got kicked out of the restaurant is also at the party and she's the one that tips him or he's the one that tips her off. But that would have been great if we had never seen that restaurant scene. And again, you start to do Karen as like, is she racist or is it just like she has a misunderstanding? And then when you bring that guy from lunch to the party, he goes, hey, like, I I know her and she's not what she seems. And if she was nice, be like, oh no, not Karen. But now it's just like, yeah, we know this information and our leads have known this for a bit now, but never acting on it. And like I said before, they act on once they get the DA son, they kind of coalesce and take notes or share notes and stuff like that. And there's going to be arrest, but Karen doesn't make it to the sequel, luckily, and she gets shot. And thank God. So yeah, I don't know if there's much to say. If you've seen this movie, whether Discord, Facebook, the YouTube comments, Twitter, hit me up and tell me what you thought about it because it is quite the experience. It's offensive but forgettable at the same time, which is good because hopefully by the end of this weekend I will forget about it. It reminds me a lot actually of what was that John Travolta movie? He played the guy who had some special needs, but he was like he gets roped up in like a murder or something. And he tried to push it for like an academy run, and they're like, not a fucking chance because it's not that good. Where is it there? And that's the where is The Fanatic? Man, The Fanatic was a fucking crazy ass movie. It's like that where it's a bad movie overall. You remember it for a little bit, but by time a month from now, will forget it. But it's bad because no characters, no story, no humor, editing poor. But then also just at times just feels offensive. It feels like, yeah, we got enough to make a movie out of, whether it is Twitter, Instagram memes, or just stories. And again, it's all surface level stuff. Travis is mad. Okay, why is Travis mad? Now he's just mad. Okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, and same thing, they'll forgive you on a dime, and they don't forgive because they always try to be like, oh well, like something's kind of up with her, but it'll just be like we're just gonna avoid her, or we're just gonna, not tell the police about her, or anything like that. So that's Karen. As I said before, you got to enjoy a few rain days and enjoy sunny days. So thank you very much for tuning in. If you got this far, bravo. You're a brave man or woman or they, well, whoever you are. you're very brave. So yes, I think at some point, like I said, Malignant coming up. There's Dexter Retro recording. Depending on my project, I might sneak a newscast and a solo tone with the Sung-Chi box office, and I might review Don't Breathe 2 better than this. But talk about a movie that did not need a sequel, as I've said for years. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. I promise when you hear from me next, it'll not be boring.